This is it. This is the first passage that we're going to be working on. And let me read this first for you guys, okay? Welcome to the Future of Nature. And I'm the host of this podcast, Nathan Murray. In this episode, we're going to talk about sustainable agriculture with the scientists, researchers, and farmers who have joined us from all over the world. Without further ado, let me introduce our guests. Wow, there were some challenging words there, like future of nature. That's the name of this whole podcast program, the future of nature. Yes. And Nathan Murray is the host of the show. Nathan Murray. And the words like episode has the first stress, first syllable stress, and the words like sustainable, the stress goes on the vowel A, sustainable, and agriculture, A has the stress. The scientists, researchers, and farmers, they all have S's at the end, right? So make sure that you read them as plural. And without a further ado, meaning that without more things to say. So we always see this phrase on this test, right? Without a further ado. It's not ado or I do. So you have to say without a further ado. Let me introduce our guests. And again, the last word also has the S at the end. Let me see who wants to join. Yes?
Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you clearly and loudly. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Welcome to the Future of Nature, and I'm the host of this podcast, Nathan Murray. In this episode, we are going to talk about sustainable agriculture with the scientists, researchers, and farmers who have joined us from all over the world. Without a further ado, let me introduce our guests.
Okay,
I'm done.
great. It was much better than last month, actually. It was much more fluent than last month, really. Sounded very fluent, and I found no flaw. I found no problem, and everything was great. And I think one thing that you could improve on is try to link the words more. Meaning, when I'm reading one sentence, I never stop, even a little bit. So this is how I do it. Welcome to the Future of Nature, and I'm the host of this podcast, Nathan Murray. Notice how I don't stop even when there is, semicolon or when there is the word and, I do not stop in the middle. So I would just sort of drag the sound by doing welcome to the Future of Nature, and I'm the host of this podcast, Nathan Murray. And finally, when I read the word Murray, that is when I stop. Do you understand what I'm asking you to do?
Okay.
All right. So when we're
Yes, I understand.
finally done with that sentence, that is when you take a breath and then start your next sentence. And the next sentence is, in this episode, we are going to talk about sustainable agriculture with the scientists, researchers, and farmers who have joined us from all over the world. Okay? That's a very long sentence, but you can actually do it if you breathe in quite, if you take a big breath. And then finally, with a breath, without a further ado, let me introduce our guests. Okay? So you're just taking 3 big breaths to read this, passage. All right? So let's see how you can do it.
Okay. I will do it again. Welcome to the Future of Nature, and I'm the host of this podcast, Nathan Murray. In this episode, we are going to talk about sustainable agriculture with the scientists, researchers, and farmers who have joined us from all over the world. Without further ado, let me introduce our guests.
Okay, everything was perfect, but at the end, you had to say, without further ado, let me introduce our guests. Okay? So in order to do that,
Oh my God, it's too hard.
Yeah, I know it's really hard. It's really hard to hold your breath and push it out, right? But if you want to make that work, you have to take a breath right before you start a sentence. You need to take a breath. You need to take a deep breath. And you know what I mean. Okay?
Yes.
All right. I'll see you in the later part of the show. Okay.
I got it.
Great. Perfect.
Okay.
That was great.
Thank you.